favorite things to do in life is to introduce my wife, the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Second Gentleman.
You're welcome.
Lorena, thank you for inviting us to be here. And I have read so much about your background and the work you did out of your home, your mother, Maria, and all of the things that were part of your beginning. And then look at this place. It's just extraordinary. And you have, you know, everyone from the neighborhood to governors coming in here on a daily basis. So I congratulate you for your success. I thank you for the courage you have had through the course of the pandemic. And thank you on behalf of the President and myself for welcoming us today. Governor Polis, you from the beginning, and again I bring greetings from Joe Biden, our President, from the beginning, the first days of our administration. You have been reaching out to engage so that we are working in a cooperative way. You have been one of the leaders in our country. And as the President has said many times, and I will say many times, it has been our governors, it has been our mayors, it has been the folks on the ground who've been carrying an extraordinary weight of responsibility to meet the needs of the people and be the voice of the people so that they're heard. And you have been doing that. I thank you also on behalf of the President and myself for the work you have done to work with us around the federal community health centers and highlighting those. I think we have about 260 in the state of Colorado now, and pharmacies as well. And we're very excited about working with you on the pharmacies, 260, and then we have about 16 of the community health centers. So thank you for that, Governor. You know, Doug, the second gentleman said it best. Our small businesses are really part of the heartbeat of every community. Our small business leaders are not only business leaders, your civic leaders, community leaders, role models. It is our small businesses that hire from the community, that uplift the community, that have regular customers who come in and you can recognize if they're having a bad day and you already know what they want so they don't even have to put in an order. You sponsor the local softball teams and the kids in the community. And half of America's workforce works for a small business or runs a small business. 2/3, I've told, of the new jobs that are being created out of small businesses. So all of that to really highlight what we all know, which is the importance of our small businesses to not only the economic engine of our country, to not only job creation in our country, but also part of the civic life of our country. And with all of that being true, our small businesses were devastated by this pandemic. Here in Colorado, in addition to 1 out of 11 families that are describing hunger in their household, 1 out of 7 describing a difficult time paying rent, 1 out of 3 of the small businesses here have had to close, many potentially permanently. So I am here. This is the first trip that I have taken. We were in Nevada yesterday, Colorado today, to, one, express our thanks for the leadership that you have been providing, Governor, on the ground, but also to acknowledge that the way that we will recover as a country will rely on elected leaders and community leaders to see us through. And that's why the American Rescue Plan was purposely designed. Yes, as the second gentleman, as the President has said, was designed because the President told everyone help is on the way and now help is here, but it was specifically designed to deal with the details of it all, including bringing relief to small businesses. So as you know, $15 billion of the American Rescue Plan is focused on the hardest hit small businesses. $28 billion of the American Rescue Plan focused on the hardest hit restaurants and small restaurants. Again, knowing that you employ locally, you have folks who've been working with you for a very long time and you had to close your doors for quite some time and then try to figure out how you could do carry out. And we want to make sure that you can stay open. So these are the things of the American Rescue Plan that were purposely designed to bring relief so that we can get back up and running. Not to mention what we have also focused on, which is the vaccinations. And the governor, you've been doing a great job here in Colorado, making sure that we get vaccines, shots in arms, as we like to say. The president has announced that by the end of May, we will have enough vaccines to vaccinate everyone, but we have to get the word out to remind everyone when it's your turn to get your vaccine. We designed purposely within the American Rescue Plan that we were giving relief to schools, knowing we all want our kids to get back in school. We want them to do it safely. We want to make sure that their educators are safe. You're doing a great job here in Colorado, and that is part of the design of the American Rescue Plan, and so much more. But specifically on the issue of our small businesses, we want to make sure that you have, and in the American Rescue Plan we did this, the support you need to retain your workers and extending the retention support that we give you, giving you the support you need to put in the plexiglass or whatever is necessary in terms of the infrastructure of your facility so that you can be healthy and safe, and so can your customers. And all of this is with a recognition, again, that the strength of America relies on the strength of everyone, and our small businesses are key to our strength, both in terms of community and in terms of our economy. And I'll close my comments with this. When I was in, Governor, you'll appreciate this, when I was in Nevada yesterday, one of the places that I visited was a food bank run by the culinary workers there. And they shared a story, which is that there were volunteers at the food bank, like there have been throughout Colorado and every other state. And folks, for hours, as Doug said, in their cars waiting to get food. And because of the coronavirus, there's no direct contact, so people drive up and they unlock their trunk, they stay in their car, the trunk pops open. What the volunteers described is the trunk would pop open, and invariably, often they would see a note, a handwritten note. And the note was written by the occupant of the car to thank the volunteers for their kindness and their work and their generosity. They described that from time to time, the trunk would open and there'd be a $5 bill. These families who have nothing because they've lost so much, tipping the volunteers for their generosity and recognizing the dignity of their work as volunteers. And so there's so much about all of this that is about our mutual commitment to the dignity of each other, especially in difficult times. And in these crises, in these moments of crises, the beauty of who we are as a nation of people who care really reveals itself in spectacular ways. So with that, I thank you again, and I am now going to pass the microphone, as you will, back to Lorena.
Well, I know that I need to tell you a little bit about my story.
Please.
In 2011, I started making fantastic Argentinian empanadas from my house, giving them to my friends and family, my Argentinian connections. But business started coming, right? So I needed to move from my little kitchen to my garage. I went to some garage sales and I bought a residential oven for my garage with $50. So I put that, but making just 12 empanadas took me like 30 minutes.
Right.
And so that's not a sustainable business, right? So, okay, with my first sales, what I did is just collect money and were able to buy my first commercial oven. So as soon as I arrived, I was having a fantastic garage, looks like a commercial kitchen, but when I'm going to plug the oven, I say, okay, hold on, this is so much bigger than I expected.
Right.
And when I see it, I say, okay, there's a problem here. I call an electrician, and of course the electrician came and said, well, Lorena, you need to choose. Your house doesn't have the power for that, so you need to choose from between your oven or your air conditioning.
Oh.
And I chose for the oven, of course. I was 6 years without air conditioning, but I have a business. So that was a good thing. So that was my first challenge as a business owner, right? They continue growing after that. Orders continue coming. I was able to prepare a fantastic Biden, I can say that word, but a folder with a beautiful business plan that I created. Binder, thank you.
Yeah.
Biden is our president.
Both are good.
Thank you.
Both are good and very helpful.
Good thing you understand me. So anyways, a beautiful binder with all my information. I went to several banks and looking for some investment, for some money, and of course I was not bankable. Then when I learned that word, not bankable.
Yeah.
Even I love to say the story that one of them told me, look at me and say, Lorena, do you really believe that there are enough Argentinians here in Denver to make this successful? And I look at that person, and my first instinct that came is, do you think there's enough Italians to support the 12 Olive Garden that are here? So I just grabbed my binder and I left. But all that was a fantastic experience, and that's what it makes my business stronger than ever, right? I was able to open my first location. I got a loan from a Colorado Enterprise Fund, a small organization, and after the years, I was able to get my bankable loan from Citywide. I opened my first location, then my second, then my third, then my fourth, and then my number 5. And of course, after that, COVID hit. So another big challenge for me. But during all this time, we were very proud, myself and my team, of everything that we conquered. We were SAGAT rated as one of the hottest new bakeries in America. We traveled in 2017 to Washington, D.C. to receive the Small Business Person of the Year award representing the state of Colorado. We were featured in Food Network 3 times, PBS, and international food shows also. And in 2017, we secured Series A venture capital from Colorado Impact Fund, which this is quite rare for a minority woman owner business. So, of course, after that, COVID hit, and the first reaction is that all my dream was coming down immediately. Not only mine, I mean, you are sitting in this table at Maria Empanada, but you are being in front of all the small business restaurants that are right there with me, suffering at this moment. So we immediately took action. Unfortunately, 1 year tomorrow, it will be a year that we were officially shutting down the restaurants. And I was probably sitting all day in one of these chairs, talking to 24 employees, laying them off. I had to furlough myself and pay cut. And one of the harder things for me is that I came from my country where it was so hard to find jobs. And one of my blessings here is to give jobs. I'm giving jobs to families in the United States of America. This is big for me. But letting them go, I could not believe it, because I was putting people on the streets without the most vulnerable part of the society. We created a few boxes of meal for them, and we compromised ourselves in giving those boxes for 3 weeks. But we were bleeding money. Everything was very, very hard. We immediately contacted all our landlords and alliances in buying, where we buy products, and we talked to them and create a very incredible connection they understood what was happening. We were always visible to them and making sure that we can do as much as we can to solve and help each other. So COVID has been hard. Now, thanks to PPP round 1 and 2, I was able to get 80% of the team that came back to work with us. And I can't wait to get more help. We don't know how many more years. We need a restaurant full of people. We need 100% of capacity to make the model business work. It doesn't work in the other way. Our numbers doesn't match. So that's why I can't wait to be back. I mean, you see people walking in the streets, you see sun, you see probably more people in the patios, but things are still there. I mean, the pandemic is still here and it's going to be suffer. It probably will take us 1 or 2 years to recover all this loss. So saying that, I want to thank you once again, and I will pass it to my other colleagues. Jack, do you want to continue with your remarks?
Thank you, Lorena. That's a great story. Madam Vice President, thank you very much for being here today. I'm Jack Briggs, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, the second gentleman, and the governor. I'm the president and CEO of the Springs Rescue Mission, which is a large gospel rescue mission in Colorado Springs. Prior to this, I was a general officer in the United States Air Force, retired in 2017, and I went to work at NYU as a senior administrator there for 3 years. And back in the spring of last year, the Rescue Mission Board called me. I had been on the board previously, and they called me and asked me if I might be interested in being the new CEO and president. And it's something that I've always thought about. I have a family history of addiction and homelessness with my sister. She passed away on the streets in Denver in the late 80s. So this has always been something that's been important to me. And so when the opportunity came, I said absolutely. So the Springs Rescue Mission, as I said, is a low barrier gospel rescue mission in southern Colorado Springs. On any given night, it'll be between 250 and 450 clients that we help. Since January, we've had over 1,000 unique individuals that have come through. And that can be for food, it can be for a place to sleep, it can be to work with their services to maybe get their Social Security card back or to get their Social Security insurance. These are all things that we do on a daily basis. For demographics, we serve about 1/3 of our clients are women on the street, which is a particularly difficult situation for people. And we focus on what we can do for women in particular. We welcome all. We have no litmus test, religious or otherwise. We're there to help people who are on the lowest rung of the socioeconomic ladder. And we want to keep them alive. We want to keep them safe. We want to give them something to eat and a place to sleep. We let God take care of the other stuff in their lives, but we're there as a gospel rescue mission to support that as well. You talk about dignity. When you're homeless and you have nothing, and someone says, I'll meet you right where you're at and work on your homelessness or your addiction or your poverty, you begin to chip away at the idea that you have no worth, that you don't matter. Because unfortunately, outside of the rescue, and there's about 300 gospel rescue missions in the United States today. CityGate is our sort of association. And we work with the administration. It's Josh Dixon, who is part of the faith-based initiatives, is who we work with. It's very interesting that when you meet people where they're at and don't ask them to meet a standard, for the first time they say, I mean, I matter, I count, and that's where we're at. That's really the essence of what we do. We work on 3 different areas. We work on health, we work on housing, and we work on work. Health is the complete spectrum, from keeping someone alive who has just come from maybe being in the hospital, but they're homeless and they have no place else to go. So we'll help them with that. We'll also help with geriatric care. There are older people that are on the streets, and people who are rather young have geriatric issues because of how hard their lives have been on the streets. Mobility is another issue, and of course women's health is of great concern on the street. We do that in partnership, not just with religious organizations, but secular organizations across the city. And I can tell you, it is amazing to see the generosity of the people of Colorado. Not just Colorado Springs, but the entire state. And the governor has been a great supporter. We have bipartisan support. Senator Hickenlooper, when he was governor, used to come down to the rescue mission all the time. Representative Lamborn, who represents Colorado Springs, has been there as well. It's a bipartisan effort, and we believe that that's really important because what we're doing is bipartisan. We're here to make the best for the people who need it the most. A couple of things that will sort of give you an idea about success rate. Anywhere from 4 to 5 people a week we will help find permanent housing. That's, we find that to be one of our best statistics. The second is that we'll have in any given day about 100 people will be in our work experience program. We're trying to retrain work skills to people who may have been on the streets for years. And they've lost work stamina, if you will. So they'll work for us. And we'll try to reteach a lot of these skills so that they can be employable someplace. And we have a catering business as an example, where we cater high-end areas like the Broadmoor, for an example, for large-scale events. And that's how we teach people, again, the value of work. When it comes to housing, we're unique as a rescue mission because we have both transitional housing and permanent supportive housing through Housing First. So I see both sides of this sort of discussion about what this is. I can tell you that Housing First is a great initiative. Rapid rehousing for veterans, for people who have just lost their house or a place to stay, where they can immediately get back into housing and avoid homelessness, that's critical. Those first couple of days, those first couple of weeks. The permanent supportive housing that we put people in, we have a 65 apartment building. Many of those that are in there came from our rescue mission because they were the most desperate. We would like to be able to see as we move forward in Housing First, the idea of wraparound services. I know that you've spent your entire career helping people understand how important wraparound services are, not just for at-risk youth, but for everybody that's in a vulnerable situation. And we think that as we watch what happens with Housing First, it's that piece of it that we all need to work together on to make it stronger, because it's a good program and we can make it a great program by that wraparound services piece as we go forward. I would just say that. When it comes to testing and vaccines, I want to thank the governor specifically because we were able to do our first homeless client vaccine clinic last week with the Johnson & Johnson, and we had 180. Now you got to think about our numbers. If I told you that we're around 400-ish people on the campus, to have almost 50% in our first try was pretty successful. And I think it's because the governor, Mayor Suthers in Colorado Springs, the leadership there, and the community in general has really supported the idea that vaccinating the homeless is important. Yeah. I'll also tell you that the PPP was incredibly important for us. We talk about volunteers. We're a volunteer organization for a lot of our people. When COVID hit, we couldn't have the volunteers anymore. But PPP allowed us to hire people during the COVID crisis to be frontline workers for us, because obviously we can't do our what we do remotely. So it was incredibly critical for us to be able to leverage that. Going forward with the recovery plan, I just want to compliment everyone that the idea about the child tax credit and the idea about the earned income tax credit,
Yes.
It's that policy stuff that people don't think about very much. It is absolutely critical for those at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder to be able to leverage those without having to jump through a bunch of hoops to take advantage of it. Because a couple $100 makes a difference in somebody's life when they're at that stage. And so being able to do that, I just want to thank you. That to me is an anti-poverty issue.
It is.
And I think by getting it in there, from our perspective, while it's been a tough year, the generosity of people, the generosity of leadership has been amazing and has helped us carry through this to support, which is our job, those who need it most. I would just like to say, secondly, as a veteran, the support to veterans has been something that I'm just grateful for. As a society, as everybody that's listening to this, the supports that people have given, but particularly in the recovery plan, there's a very specific thing that is going to help veteran students.
Yep.
Student veterans often will be in a situation with for-profit institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are very, very good, and I don't want to throw everybody in with the same
I
thing.
put one out of business when I was 18.
So, but there are some predatory ones
Yes.
who took advantage of the 90-10
Yes,
rule.
you are right.
So the First Lady spoke at the Student Veterans of America
Yeah.
conference this last week, or 2 weeks ago, and that sort of support through the administration to support student. I'm a student veteran right now. I'm actually getting my doctorate at NYU on student veterans using their post 9/11 GI Bill at for-profit institutions to try to understand that better. And closing this loophole won't just make the for-profit industry more accountable, it will make the rest of higher education better, because as students see that maybe that's not the way to go, maybe they'll go to a nonprofit, public or private institution. Those institutions are going to have to step up to support those student veterans as well. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you coming all this way to hear us, and God bless you all for doing what you're doing.
God bless you, and thank you for you are living a life of service, and thank you. Thank you.
It's a privilege.
I would like to introduce Gabriela Salazar with Colorado Artisan Center.
Thank you, Lorena, and thank you, Madam Vice President, Governor. Thank you for letting me share my story with you. I feel humbled, and I immigrated to this country at the age of 18 on my own, to this amazing country, and had the opportunity to work with Native American artists and designers, and have been a small business owner for over 30 years. The COVID impact on the art industry, we have experienced a significant economic loss. In my business, the SBA has kept me afloat. More is needed. The PPP loan has been limited, and the grants have been mostly for the food industry. I represent over 100 small businesses from local artisans and designers in my community, and 90% of those artists are either unemployed or collecting unemployment as of today. In my location, downtown Denver, we were impacted by both the pandemic and the riots, not to mention the post-election preparation we had to do to protect our business during our most productive season. I've seen businesses around me closing. It's just not sustainable. And I'm staying hopeful, and with your support, I believe I will be able to continue with my goals and my dreams. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Lalita and Maddie, a pleasure to have you here too.
Thank you. So, Madam Vice President, Second Gentleman, and Governor Polis, I am Madhvi Chittor, 9 years old. I found a non-profit called Madhvi for Ecoethics in 2017 when I was the age of 6. I support my mom in her business. I am the no styrofoam ninja artist on my strut. So I have worked with Governor Polis to declare April as Plastic and Styrofoam Pollution Awareness Month. My concern is during COVID, people use takeout for restaurants instead of being in the restaurant. so more disposable plastic utensils, styrofoam and plastic containers were used. I'm here to seek your support for the formulation of a global plastic policy with 73 countries and climate scientists like Dr. Jane Goodall, Olga Speranskaya, Al Gore, Michael Mann supporting it. I am ready to lead this initiative representing USA. Would you please help me?
There you go.
First of all, I love it when I saw some of our other young leaders here. I love meeting our young leaders. When I look at you, I know our future is bright. And part of the reason that we are here today, of course, is to celebrate and honor and thank our small businesses. And just as we were here, we've almost come full circle at the table, because as Lorena was describing how she came about it, each one of you, it was something that was born out of a passion combined with a great idea that was about how you can make things better for other people, be it through good food, which I believe is a very important way to make people know how they are loved and cared for, to what we do for our just the least of these, and giving them the dignity and the respect. The arts, so much a part of the vitality of who we are, because it's born obviously out of creativity, but it's also making accessible the ability to see the beauty of the world. To what you are doing, to say, let us save our planet, and do it with a sense of urgency.
Yes.
And that is just spectacular, and that's exactly how great things happen, when they're born out of that kind of passion from people of every age. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
So, Madam Vice President, just to support her advocacy,
Yes.
I started this company called it's a micro business, Eco All Trading, and we are wholesale traders of sustainable products like flatware made out of bamboo or birch wood, and stainless steel trays, all that stuff. Our primary customers would be schools, cafeterias, restaurants, even federal government, and also prisons. And we are very nascent. We are a small business. Like I started in 2019 of August. And I had approached many schools, and they were all very interested. And one of the third largest school district in Colorado, they were very interested. They gave the contract to, and then COVID struck. And then they had to retract it because the schools were closing. And then so we were all thinking like we will celebrate them as a zero waste hero.
Yeah.
Just as Governor Polis had launched one program at that time. So everything stopped. And then I had applied for PPP loan also. But because we were a micro business with only like, I had only 2 employees at that time, they had refused because we had not even filed the taxes, and all that stuff. And because I started in August of 2019, I didn't get the first round of plan, the loan
The
itself.
PPP.
So I think this ARP, the American Rescue Plan, which has included the micro businesses, I think that's awesome. Really, I think it is going to give a lifeline for us and to do what we have to do. When you support restaurants, when you support like even schools, like where they'll go and the kids are no longer at home, and so that would also help our micro business like mine to, because it's all a ripple effect,
That's
a domino effect. And
That's
so
right.
I thank you for that, you and the Biden administration, like for the ARP, which is going to help even the micro business, because that has covered everybody in the fold, like even the unemployed, everybody you have brought into the fold. So thank you very, very
Thank
much
you.
for that.
Thank you,
And
Lalita.
I also look forward for her global plastic
Plastic policy.
Yes, global plastic policies.
Yes, and it's 73 countries have supported it, and even including Mr. Al Gore and even former presidents from Ecuador, then from New Zealand, Miss Helen Clark. So we look forward, like US can really lead it, and she's there to talk to everybody. She has spoken already with, you can say, with many countries.
With many countries like Mozambique and like Japan, like there's many many of the countries
Afghanistan and
around the
Bangladesh,
world,
yeah.
like Afghanistan, Bangladesh, like all of those countries around the world. I talked to many of them.
And you can see they are looking for leadership from the US, and they are very, very, like you can see in their eyes, their interest in saying climate change is very important.
Well, it is a very big priority for the President and me, which is why we re-entered the Paris Agreement. And then we are doing a lot of work that is about also understanding the connection between that and job creation again, right?
Exactly.
And it is about everything from what we need to do about renewable energies, what we need to do to bring down greenhouse gas emissions, what we need to do around also investing in water infrastructure, which is a very big issue in our country. And when you talk about the global impact, you are absolutely right. In fact, we recently had meetings with the Quad, which is Australia and Japan and India, talking about what we can do as a global community, right, to bring down these emissions, which of course are destroying our planet. So I'm going to ask one of our policy people to follow up with you. How about that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Awesome.
I think you might add to the conversation in an important way.
That's very good.
And here in Colorado, our advocacy has brought a bill this time. It's called HB 211162 to ban styrofoam containers. And that I think would be a Colorado will set an example too.
And it
I
will be
think,
a
and,
great start.
We'll make the great step for climate
Thank
change.
you.
Thank you.
Before we close out, I'd love to pass the mic to the governor.
Well, sure. You know, I just want you to know that we are so grateful for the American Rescue Plan, especially when you look at the state and local aid piece. It enables us to help some of these micro businesses. One of the programs that we fund is Energize Colorado. It's women, minority-owned businesses, rural, veteran-owned businesses, very, micro businesses, 1, 2, 3, 4 people, $10,000, $15,000 grants. And in a lot of these, the state is able, and local governments are able to tailor the programs to help support their small businesses, but they are federal dollars, and we really wouldn't be able to do these kinds of programs, including tax relief for restaurants, which we did for a 3-month period, and we're working to do again. But without the American Rescue Plan, we wouldn't even be able to have these conversations about how we can help our businesses grow and get through this period. We're also grateful for the accelerated delivery of the vaccines. We had weekly calls with the White House.
Yeah.
You might have been on some of those. There's one this morning. They're increasing the quantity every week.
Yeah.
Here in Colorado, we've said we'll open up the vaccine to everybody by mid-April. It'll be in early to mid-April, and we'll have the date soon on that. It's going to everybody 50 and up starting in a day or two here. So,
yeah, that's great.
and we've already vaccinated well over 3/4 of people 70 and up. We're nearing the level where people we have to convince people to
Right.
take it. So I think we're in for a very good recovery. We've had a good we've had good snow, which you saw on the way in. So
Yes.
thankfully our ski resorts will be open a few weeks longer.
Right.
They've been it's been a better year than some might have expected considering the pandemic. But outdoor recreation is fun. Colorado is all about outdoor recreation. It's safe during the pandemic, and in whether it's biking, hiking.
Yes.
Rafting, and of course skiing. So we're also excited this week. We're doing Dine In and Dine Out week. We're encouraging people to order out from their local restaurants, outdoor dining. We of course have some space indoors that it's a safe distance. People can enjoy that as well. It's really about kind of being able to get past this pandemic as quickly as possible. And I want to add that the American Rescue Plan also has the resources to do that.
Yes.
So the increased testing, the vaccination.
That's right.
We are running a number of equity clinics and vaccination clinics across the state. A lot of people don't realize that that's also federal investment
That's
that
right.
allows us to do that. We as states, and I think this is the case in most states, we just have to balance the budget every year. We don't have extra money to run vaccination clinics without, cutting schools or not repairing roads. But we're able to have those resources, and now with the American Rescue Plan, we'll have those full resources to vaccinate every Coloradan who wants it by the end of May. Hopefully we like to beat the rest of the country, so hopefully beating, if Joe Biden says the end of May. We want to be mid-May, right? We want to be mid-May. And we're going to be open to everybody before May 1st. But we couldn't do without the federal support. And the American Rescue Plan is so pragmatic, practical, helps our small businesses, even beyond the direct help you're doing, because it enables the state to do all of these programs, as well as local governments, to keep our economy growing and really superpower the recovery. So we're just so grateful for the rescue plan.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. I think we're going to close it out with a couple.
Yes,
Yep.
if you, yeah, absolutely. We all were talking and you listened, so that's great. So if you guys want to give a remarkable.
And you'll have to try Lorena's empanadas.
Oh,
They're
you're
really
not
good.
living
It'll-
with
You
it'll-
have no idea. I've already looked at the menu. I know what I want.
I want to add one thing. My grandmom's name is also Kamala, and I was born in Chennai, where your
Yes.
mom is from.
Oh, thank
இங்க
you.
நம்ம ரெண்டு பேரும் ஒரே பாஷை பேசுவோம். So
ஆமா.
தமிழ் தெரியும்.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. As always, I've learned so much, and now I don't have to talk to her tonight about it since she's able to listen. But we will talk about this, because every time I do this, she does this. You learn so much. But one of the common denominators, and I could hear it in everyone's story, is a sacrifice. It's sacrifice, it's determination, it's being up for a challenge, and usually prevailing, and all of you have demonstrated that, and also some competitive edge, which every time I've talked to the governor, it's always with that competitive edge, where now that we have this challenge, you've demonstrated in the past, all of you, with all your stories, that you've done it. But now with the American Rescue Plan, it really is that bridge to help for all of you to achieve what you have been talking about, including the state, the arts, and all the micro business, and all of your public service, and this restaurant, and so many others. So just hearing your stories, I know the future looks bright, and this plan is going to help everyone get there. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Vice President?
Thank you. So thank you all for being here and for sharing your stories. And the President and I, along with the second gentleman, the First Lady, we have been traveling. We are traveling this week and next probably, for one specific reason. We want to get the word out about the help that is available, so we make sure people take advantage of the help. And to that point, we want to make sure that people know, for example, that there is in the ARP assistance for, as I said earlier, $15 billion for the hardest hit. There is $28 billion for restaurants that have been hard hit. There's $10 billion that is about financing, right? We talked about that. The financing piece is critical. And in fact, moving forward, the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, and I are working on what we can do to enhance the work coming out of CDFIs, community banks, with a particular focus on minority and women-owned businesses. So this is very much within the mindset of our administration around what we can do to lift up these folks who also, to your point, have been unbanked, but have great ideas, hard work, motivated by an incredible ethic that includes giving a value to the community. So I'm glad that you raised that, and we are working on that. Jack, you talked about the child tax credit and the EITC. It's probably one of the things we are most excited about. We will, through this child tax credit, lift half of America's children who are in poverty out of poverty. Can you imagine what that will mean? It'll have generational impact.
Helps break a cycle.
It'll break a cycle.
And we also want to thank Senator Michael Bennett from Colorado
Well, I
for
was going to
helping
get to that, because he has been an extraordinary champion for years on this issue. And so Senator Michael Bennett, we also can't mention him without mentioning Senator Hickenlooper, who has also been an extraordinary leader. But on the child tax credit, one of the things that I'd like you all to help me get the word out, and the EITC, and all of the benefits that we're talking about, including the $1,400 direct payment. So if people are in the system, what do I mean by that? If they're in the system because they receive Social Security benefits, if they're in the system because they receive Medicaid benefits, if they're in the system because they paid taxes last year, then it's likely that there should be no problem and it will be swiftly, they'll receive the benefits. If they're not in the system in that way, we want to encourage people to file taxes, even though they may not owe anything, but fill out the paperwork so they get in the system. So I need your help to get the word out to folks. Because there is so much there for them, and we would hate that they would be delayed, much less denied, because folks aren't in the system. Okay, so that's one of the things that I want to emphasize. The other piece to emphasize is that there is so much about this also that is about COBRA benefits. And so COBRA benefits, it's about for people who have lost their job and their employer helped pay for their health coverage, right, for their premiums. After a period of time of being unemployed, it ends if people don't file for it. And this extends COBRA benefits. So that's a very important part of this. And then my final point would be that the piece about climate is so important. And if we see the nexus between all of this, because we know that especially when you're talking about the hardest hit communities globally and in our country, it is people who are living in economically poor neighborhoods, who have been overlooked neighborhoods and communities that have been just dumping grounds. And so when we think about the American Rescue Plan, a lot of the president's priority and our priority around it was equity, making sure that everyone, wherever they are, that they're not overlooked, that they're not left behind. And that's a big issue as it relates to climate as well. And then the last point is, and Lalita, you said this, all of these issues are connected. From what we do to pull children out of poverty, what we do to help our small businesses, what we do to make sure everyone gets vaccinated, and that they get that vaccine when it is their turn. All of these things are connected and really were part of the design of the American Rescue Plan, which is to see people in the full relief of who they are. All of us have many facets to our lives. And the design behind this was to recognize that and to bring relief to the folks who need it. So I want to thank you all on behalf of President Joe Biden and myself for your leadership, for your strength, for your courage. And let's just keep on doing what we got to do to build our country up. And as the president likes to say, build back better. So thank you all.
We all want to thank you for the American Rescue Plan. I just don't know where we'd be without it. It's the tools we need for a strong recovery to save lives, end the pandemic, get back to normal, help businesses thrive. So thank you for the American Rescue Plan.
Thank you. And get our kids back in school.
That's
Yes, please.
They're all back in Colorado. We've done well with that. They've been doing good.
On a different note, can I ask one question?
It's good to see you again. Madam Vice President, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Visiting.
Governor.
Absolutely.
It's so good to see you again, and for all of your leadership. There we go. You be well.
You too.
Okay?
Thank you.
And give your family our best. Okay. Thank you all, everyone.
Thank you for hosting,
Thank
Marina.
you.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to the policy call.
Thank
from
you.
your
Thank
people.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
I know you won't let me forget. Don't worry.
Thank you so much.